everyone, welcome back to my movie obsession. My name's Jim and this time I'm obsessing over the 2013 Superman reboot directed by Zack Snyder. This is my look at Man of Steel. So in June 2008, Warner Brothers took pictures from comic book writers, screenwriters and directors on how to successfully restart the Superman film series. Comic book writers Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Jeff Johnson and Brad Meltzer were among those who pitched ideas for a reboot. Grant Morrison's idea was quite similar to his work on All-Star Superman, while Waid's was akin to Superman Birthright. Mark Miller, teaming with director Matthew Vaughn, also planned an epic 8-hour Superman trilogy, each instalment released a year apart, similar to The Lord of the Rings. Miller compared it to the Godfather trilogy, in which it would chronicle the entire life of Superman, from the early days of Krypton to the finale, where Superman loses his powers as the sun starts to go supernova. That is either the worst idea I've ever heard, or the best.
Guess I'll just have to trust you.
In August of that year, Warner Brothers suggested a reboot of the film series. Studio executive Jeff Robinoff planned to have the film released either by 2010 or 2011, explaining that Superman Returns didn't quite work as a film in the way that we wanted it to. It didn't position the character the way he needed to be positioned. Had Superman worked in 2006, we would have had a movie for Christmas of this year of 2009. Now the plan is just to reintroduce Superman without regard to a Batman and Superman movie at all. And then rush straight into Batman v Superman if this does well. August 2008 saw a court ruling in which Jerry Siegel's family recaptured 50% of the rights to Superman's origins and Siegel's share of the copyright in Action Comics. In addition, a judge ruled that Warner Brothers did not owe the families additional royalties from previous films. However, if they did not begin production on a Superman film by 2011, then the Siegel estate would have been able to legally sue for lost revenue on an unproduced film. Yeah, Warner Brothers, you heard them. Make Superman or you're going down. Guillermo del Toro turned down the director's position on the reboot because of his commitment on a film adaptation of At the Mountains of Madness, while Robert Zemeckis was also approached. Ben Affleck, Darren Aronofsky, Duncan Jones, Jonathan Liebsman, Matt Reeves and Tony Scott were also considered as potential directors, before Zack Snyder was hired in October 2010. Principal photography began in August 2011 in West Chicago, Illinois, before moving to Vancouver and Plano, Illinois. Zack Snyder expressed reluctance to shooting the film in 3D due to the technical limitations of the format, and instead chose to shoot the film two-dimensionally and convert the film into 3D in post-production for a 2D, 3D and IMAX 3D release. Snyder also chose to shoot Man of Steel on film instead of digitally because he felt it would make the film a big movie experience. Burnaby's Mammoth Studios in Canada was transformed into Superman's home planet of Krypton, as well as the alien aircraft that invades the film. UCLA and Nanaimo, British Columbia feature prominently in the film's first hour. The trademark winter mist and rough seas are passed off as Alaska. Filming also took place in the Chicago Loop from September 7th, 2011 to the 17th. Vancouver production took place from September 21st, 2011 to January 20th, 2012 to celebrate the 60th birthday anniversary of the late Christopher Reeve, who was the first actor who played Superman in the films. Matthew Good, Armie Hammer, Matt Bomer, Joe Manganiello, Colin O'Donoghue and Zac Efron, yeah,
no way,
were on the final shortlist for the role of the Man of Steel. Henry Cavill was finally cast. He was the frontrunner to play Superman in another Superman movie with the working title Flyby, but the movie failed to be greenlit and Brandon Routh was cast in Superman Returns instead. Cavill was also a runner-up to Daniel Craig for the James Bond role in Casino Royale. Cavill's casting was very controversial as many questioned the appropriateness of a British actor playing an American icon. However, defenders of the casting pointed out that Christian Bale, who was portraying Batman at the time, was Welsh.
Oh, good for you!
This is actually Amy Adams' third time auditioning for Lois Lane. She first read for Lois in director Brett Ratner's abandoned Superman movie, and then for Superman Returns in 2006. Adams also appeared in an episode of Smallville. Amy Adams just wouldn't go away, it seems. She was obsessed with becoming Lois so much she chased development for any Superman production.
If you are a stalker, keep at it, because in the end it might pay off.
Man of Steel features a redesigned Superman costume by James Akeson and Michael Wilkinson. The costume preserves the colour scheme and the S logo, but adopts darker tones, and notably does not feature the red trunks usually worn by Supes.
I have so many questions.
Zack Snyder originally planned for the infamous red trunks that Superman has worn throughout his 75-year existence to be part of the suit. However, when looking over 1,500 different designs, he said that it just didn't work, so he decided to take them out. As for the villain in the movie, General Zod, due to the substantial weight of a practical suit, Zod's outfit was constructed through CGI to allow Shannon freedom of movement. Cavill's costume is pretty good, but I think we can agree that the abandoned Superman Lives outfit worn by Nicolas Cage is the shit. And I mean shit as in shit, but I just wanted to see it because it's so shit I would have been blown away by how shit it was. Speaking of effects, John Desjardins served as the visual supervisor for Man of Steel, with Weta Digital, MPC and Double Negative providing the visual effects. The action sequences where Superman utilises close combat fight scenes with the other Kryptonians proved to be a major challenge for the filmmakers and the visual effects crew. Desjardins explained, "When we do these fights and these hyper-real things, we don't want to do the traditional, okay, I'm a cameraman, I'm shooting a clean plate, I'm going to pan over here to follow the action. That's not really there yet, but we'll put in the action later, because that's us animating the characters to the camera. So we would do animation with the characters, grappling, punching or flying away, and we would take the real guys up until the point until they were supposed to do that, and we cut. Then we put an environment camera there and shoot the environment, and then a camera for reference of the actors, and get each movement. So we then had a set of high-res stills for the environment and the characters. Then in post, we take the digi-doubles and animate them according to the speeds we want them to move in our digital environment." Man of Steel had a superb viral marketing campaign. Campaigns for the film began when the official website was replaced by deep space radio waves. The message was decoded to reveal a voice that said, "You are not alone." The official site continued to be updated with new static files that slowly revealed the symbol for the film's villain, General Zod. Shortly after, the website was replaced with a message from Zod, who requested that Earth must return Kal-El to his custody and told Kal-El to surrender within 24 hours or the world would suffer the consequences. A viral site entitled IWillFindHim.com was also released that showed a countdown to the third trailer for the film. Man of Steel was released in theatres in June 14, 2013 in conventional 2D, 3D and IMAX formats. It received mixed reviews, although it was a box office success, grossing more than $668 million worldwide. Man of Steel grossed $291 million in the US and Canada and $377 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $668 million, making it the highest grossing solo Superman film ever and the second highest grossing reboot of all time behind The Amazing Spider-Man, although it did beat The Amazing Spider-Man in North America. The film earned $116.6 million on its opening weekend, including $17.5 million from IMAX theatres. However, the second weekend after its opening, Man of Steel's box office fell almost 65 to 68%, if the Thursday night grosses included, putting it in third place behind Monsters University and World War Z. Box Office Mojo called it an abnormally large drop, close to the second weekend decline for Green Lantern. Man of Steel was a clear attempt to make Superman finally relatable. To be honest, I'm not as outraged as a lot of fans were by this decision. There are two camps of people, it seems. The ones who for years and years have dogged on Superman, calling him a character whom you couldn't relate to. He was too perfect, he was too nice, he was just completely flawless, and on top of that, he was indestructible. Then there are the people who hold on to the traditional view of Superman, where you're not supposed to relate to him in terms of him showing human weakness. Instead, it's his ideals and morals we should look up to. He's a role model. Just in case you were wondering, this is the Superman model I subscribe to, but despite that, I wasn't completely against the idea of making him a little more down to earth. DC decided to do this and bring Superman down to our level, and of course fans who see Superman as an ideal complained, and a lot of people complained from both camps anyway. I'm quite sympathetic to the makers of Man of Steel because they are at least trying to update Superman and reinvent him for better or for worse. And they had a number of good ideas. However, some of these good ideas are executed badly. So they ended up pissing off the people who wanted Superman to be more human, and the people who didn't want him to be, all at once. This movie was essentially Batman Begins but for Superman. It brought Superman down to a more grounded and darker level, examining his impact on a more realistic world that we had never seen him in before. You can't really blame the filmmakers for going this route. I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy was ridiculously successful. Why wouldn't it work for Superman? It actually turned out to be one of the biggest backfires in recent movie history. Fans seemed to absolutely despise Zack Snyder's Superman with a true passion. I do think people have been a bit harsh, but I do see their point that simply trying to reinvent the success of the Dark Knight trilogy wasn't the way to go. Superman is a different character, a different philosophy, pretty much a different everything. I'm not against them going darker and introducing these new themes, but they take them too far at times to the point they are slowly stripping away everything that makes Superman great. Look, it's fun to seriously examine how people would react if Supes indeed showed up in a more realistic world, but they make it such a dark and gloomy reaction. Beginning in this movie but culminating in Batman v Superman, everyone hates the fucker. And you don't want to see films about Superman being hated and moping around depressed. It's fine to have a bit of that, but when you make that the entire concept, you're going too far. And don't get me started on the collateral damage bullshit in the culmination. Oh boy, we'll get to that. What you thinking, Supes? However, despite the many flaws Man of Steel has, it's another of those films I enjoy regardless, although I acknowledge it is riddled with issues, and it's far from the amazing movie it could have been. The actors are definitely not to blame, however, as pretty much all of the performances in this film are amazing. Henry Cavill is a superb Superman, I don't care what people say. I really do think he's one of the most ideal castings of recent years. In a traditional Superman film, I actually think he would have had the chance to become the best Superman. He has such a pleasant nature about him. He sounds like Superman when he talks, you can really feel he is passionate about what he believes in, and of course he looks the part. Problem is, he is dealing with being written as a Superman in a dark and realistic world, and any other actor too would struggle with that. I'm a big fan of Cavill and I really feel sorry for him as the films went on. Superman is far worse written in Batman v Superman, and not even Cavill can save that grim and gloomy story they had come up with. In this one, there's at least some traditional Superman feel left over, and Cavill shines when it matters. Amy Adams as Lois Lane was a real surprise for me. I mean, on paper she doesn't look like Lois, but as soon as she opens her mouth and you see her performance, she completely nails it. She has the spunky reporter down to a T, and is up there with Margot Kidder in my opinion. But neither of them will ever truly match Terry Hatcher. Yes, she is my favourite Lois Lane. Ah, forget about her, did ya?
For what?
Despite getting the character of Lois right, Amy Adams' portrayal gets a bit more deep, a bit sooner than the others. Hell, in the first movie she already knows who Superman is and basically is already in love with him. Amy Adams manages to be believable while the movie around her is doing what the DCEU manages to do best, rush. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White is a very welcome addition to the film. It's not a choice I would have expected, but it turns out to be a very good one. He's very charismatic and has some fantastic back and forth with Amy Adams. He's also the voice of reason in the film while Lois is running around chasing aliens and trying to take on the FBI. He at least tries to take a rational approach to things, even though it obviously doesn't work out. Michael Shannon as General Zod isn't the greatest. He doesn't have the presence of Terrence Stamp in Superman 2, and he has some really cringy lines. I feel like the actor wasn't sure where to go with this performance. One minute it's campy, the next it's dead serious. It's a little bit all over the place, to be honest. His motivations are interesting, as he is not doing what he's doing from the side of pure evil. He believes what he's doing is right, and he is actually full of a lot of compassion, but only for his own race, whom he is dedicated to. The scenes between Zod and Superman in which Zod can't work out why Superman has pledged allegiance to humans who have done him nothing but harm are acted very well by both. Each side of the story is worth considering. I mean, as we'll mention later, Superman's side of the story isn't necessarily the best, as it seems to lead to just as many fuckers dying as Zod's approach. The film starts the same place as the original 1978 film did, on planet Krypton, which is about to explode. However, they do a hell of a lot more with Krypton in this film. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that we now have a Krypton TV show. I mean, these opening scenes are thrilling and really show there's a lot that could be done with a series set on Superman's home planet. Of course, Russell Crowe plays Superman's father Jor-El, who wants to send him to Earth, and he is awesome. His dedication to Krypton and a message of hope is fantastic, and his rivalry with Zod is great to watch. However, although there are some great exchanges between the two, now and again Michael Shannon shifts into overacting mode with some of the worst line deliveries I have ever seen. So when General Zod and his mates end up captured because they are crazy fuckers, look at Zod's reaction to Jor-El wanting to send his son Kal-El to Earth to save him from Krypton's destruction.
I will find him. I will find him, Lara. I will find him!
Nicolas Cage would frown on that overacting. Maybe.
What am I, a fucking retard, man? Am I a fucking retard? Oh!
The Krypton scenes are very well written and look fantastic, and at times I wonder if they should have made a Krypton movie first. The opening scenes are that good. According to production designer Peter Mitchell-Rubin, Krypton's look was primarily influenced by the 19th to 20th century Art Nouveau style. Art Nouveau designers assumed that nothing could ever be as beautiful as what nature creates, so they tried to be as true to that ideal as they could. Weta Digital created the alien-like planet environments, creatures and the principal means of display, a technology that the filmmakers dubbed liquid geometry. The early scenes focus on Clark's flashbacks of his childhood, but some are fucking mental. How about the scene where Clark has to use his powers to save a bus full of school kids from drowning? Listen to the reaction by Clark's adopted father Jonathan Kent, played by Kevin Costner. It's one of the worst lines in movie history, and is a big glaring issue with their otherwise pretty good father and son scenes.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
No, I'm sure he didn't say it. Play it again.
Maybe.
No. Maybe I'm just... I think I'm hearing and seeing things today. Play it again.
Maybe.
What a prick.
I don't know where to start.
Kevin Costner's a great actor, and there are a few moments where he's really good. You really feel his love for Clark and how much he cares for him. He's very believable and has a few cool philosophical lines, but he isn't helped by the way he is written to be pretty callous just to ensure Clark's powers are not revealed. Hell, his burning conviction to not unveil Clark's abilities even cost him his own life. I understand not revealing Clark's powers, I really do, but when it involves a bus full of school kids dying and you're willing to allow that just to keep people from knowing who he is, you might want to rethink that strategy, Kev.
Maybe.
I see what they were going for, but Jesus Christ, the scene where he waves Clark off in the middle of a tornado just comes across as cringy to me and nonsensical. I mean, on paper this character would sound really good, it's just the way they delivered it. And that's one of the issues with Man of Steel, it's the way they executed some good ideas really badly. Surely there was another way for Clark's dad to try and shield him from the world, without him not giving a shit about a bus full of kids and killing himself at the same time. This scene tries to be really epic, but I'm sorry, I find it cringy and almost laughable. I'm going to leave you to feel bad about my death essentially because of my dedication to an idea which really could have been ignored just this once. Another element of the film that throws you for a loop, but this time in a good way, is Lois knowing who Clark is from the beginning. She meets Clark very early on in the film, before his job at the Daily Planet is even considered. She meets him when he's still trying to work out what to do and when he is still an alien to the world. I must admit, I love this development. It was one of the least expected routes you could take. And when Lois knows his identity from the beginning, you have no idea where this film will go. It gives the movie a sense of unpredictability. We'd seen the same relationship between Lois and Clark for years and years, and now we got something entirely new and fresh, and I really liked it. Now we don't have to go through the bullshit for years of Lois not knowing who Clark is because he wears glasses. It's one of the most tiresome and ludicrous parts of the Superman character.
The bloke they don't recognise when he puts fucking glasses on. How does that work, right? Fuck around a mate's house and he says, Frank, have you read this in the paper? I'll put my reading glasses on. He doesn't go, who on earth? You come bursting in here, help, help! No, it's me, Frank, thank God, some bastard with glasses on, he come in here, grab the fucking paper.
Also really got into the whole investigation Lois goes on to discover the truth, and I enjoy the fact that Superman is presented to the world as an alien, and a big mystery surrounds him. Kinda reminds me how Batman was presented in the 1989 Batman film, almost as an urban myth. I like Clark being a wanted man, being hunted as an alien walking Earth. It was so different to anything we had ever seen. I feel like fans miss a lot of the little things that did work, and to be fair, the glaring issues probably clouded their vision, but for me as a viewer, I can still see all the little positive things Man of Steel was trying to do. I personally found these new little elements refreshing and far more interesting than just watching a direct rehash of the Superman story, kinda how Superman Returns ended up. I mean, let's be fair, whether you liked what they did or not, we really should take our hat off to Man of Steel. They actually took some risks, tried something new, and injected some life back into a stale franchise. I just feel like more quality control needed to be enforced, because the many new elements that didn't work are very frustrating because, as I said earlier, on paper some of them are good ideas. There's definitely a real attempt to make this film a spectacle. In some moments it fails, such as Jonathan Kent's ridiculous death, but the scenes in which Clark finds his Krypton ship and is told by a hologram of Darrell his purpose are fantastic. When we see Clark converse with his father, leading to him donning the suit, leaping and then flying at insane speeds, I am sat in awe. I actually would have liked these scenes to go on longer, seeing Superman testing out his new skills. Zack Snyder is in his element here, with his fantastic use of the camera and an uncanny ability to make everything larger than life. Snyder was ideal for the visual presentation of this film, he just seems to fall flat with some of the themes and ideas not fully resonating. However, it's worth noting that Snyder is not entirely to blame for everything wrong with Man of Steel. I mean, David S. Goyer and Chris Nolan come up with the story, and Nolan also produced the movie, and I don't see anyone having a go at them. It's always a case of this: Zack Snyder. See? Don't get me wrong, Zack Snyder was all over the place with this movie with his input, but it seems the main thing people seem to diss about the film is the screenplay and the story, which Snyder didn't come up with. He was probably a big part of it, but I assume it's a painful thing for people to admit that Chris Nolan or David S. Goyer actually came up with something that was far from perfect. Get ready everyone, because I'm about to tell you some devastating news. Sit down, and if you're holding a drink, put it down as well. Chris Nolan can actually make mistakes. Wow, I actually made that statement and I'm still alive. Wow, fucking hell! In a quote about the film, Chris Nolan said, "I immediately got it, I loved it and thought this was a good way of approaching the story. It's a way I've never seen that makes it incredibly exciting. I want to get it into the studio right away." That's a direct quote from Christopher Nolan, the guy everyone thinks is this untouchable genius. He wanted Superman to go this direction, it wasn't just Snyder.
Damn right!
Something that was always criticised about the previous Superman flicks was the lack of action, so in this one they've thrown in a lot of action. Now to be fair, I really like the action scenes because I've obviously always wanted to see Superman kick some ass. The problem is Superman doesn't look at what he's doing or where he's going. He destroys Metropolis, he's a fucking vandal and a murderer. This is Superman, how can he be so amateur in the way he just casually acts like there's no tomorrow, destroys a city like something out of Grand Theft Auto? Sure, we need to see Zod and Superman smash the shit out of each other, but it would have been very easy to have them do that and not have them destroy buildings with people in. This was a major issue with this movie. It's madness. It's completely against what Superman stands for. No wonder people struggled to see Henry Cavill's Superman as the true Man of Steel. He's either a complete idiot who doesn't think about what he's actually doing, or he doesn't care. Either way, this Superman is acting like a complete knobhead. The action is spectacular, the visual effects are honestly unlike anything I've ever seen before. I just wish the results weren't fucking terrible. It's a complete joke that this destruction made it into the film. Look at the fucking city. Fucking ash. Oh, I'm so tired, but at least I've defeated Zod and Metropolis is safe. Oh. It doesn't stop there. The next glaring issue with the movie is after all of this collateral damage, Superman murders Zod. I mean, sure, it's ridiculous and shouldn't have happened, but I never understood the huge outrage. I mean, he's already killed. There's no way multiple civilians were not killed or seriously injured by his previous actions in the city. But let's just say he hadn't done all that shit. Let's just say this was the only Superman murder, which they act like. This is terrible. How can you screw up Superman's character, his moral code, his beliefs, his honour, his ethics, his respect in the first fucking movie? Superman gives in to his anger in the first instalment. He just decides to kill Zod when he didn't need to. He could have just put him into captivity. There's plenty of things he could have done. But instead he just decides to break his neck. Superman needs anger management. There's a sentence I never thought I'd say. Zack Snyder himself proposed that Superman kill General Zod in order to set up Superman's classic never kill motto. He wanted it to be brutal and jarring so that it would forever keep in Superman's mind. Superman doesn't not kill because he once killed and it made him have a fit. Superman doesn't kill because he's Superman. Fucking hell, Zack. Another thing I don't understand about Zod's death is how twisting his neck ended up being the way to kill him. How can you kill General Zod by snapping his neck, but you can't kill him by smashing him through 100 buildings at high speed? Am I missing something here? Why even smash him through some buildings if you could just unscrew his head? Just do it all along. And hang on, if Superman thought, hang on, I don't want to kill Zod, I'm going to kill him by unscrewing his head, why'd he go, I will smash him through a building? What if he died from that? Smashing through a building is worse than breaking someone's fucking neck. This whole thing is a mindfuck.
He exposed a temporary weakness.
Of course, the film ends with Clark Kent starting work at the Daily Planet. So Lois can see past the glasses now. She's come a long way. She couldn't see shit in the other versions. Nevertheless, I do love this ending. As I said, this at least gives a new, unique perspective, and it's one of the changes in Man of Steel that I actually support and think worked out well. It actually made me want to see Man of Steel 2. They could have rectified the mistakes of this film and built on the positives. Man of Steel 2 could have been released instead of Batman v Superman. It would have been epic. Man of Steel 2 could have been great.
Really? Well, I don't believe you.
Man of Steel is far from a great movie, but I feel like it has awesome moments, some ambitious and admirable ideas, and some stunning performances and action scenes. That's enough for me to conclude that this film has a lot of merit to it. What brings it down is the now common trope for DC films, the script. The script comes across like it was written how I used to write my homework in middle school. Just always the night before. Never passing, mate. It's rushed, bloated, nonsensical, and in moments downright offensive. As for the direction, I mean, I'm sure he was all over the script, and decisions too, of course he was, but in terms of what we see on screen, Man of Steel was a real visual treat. Snyder does things in this film I'd never seen before, and he created action scenes that blew my mind. Obviously in more ways than one, as I talked about, but I can't deny they were pretty spectacular and captivating. For me, Man of Steel is a watchable movie that fails to cash in fully on the potential. Kinda like Dark Knight Rises. Maybe one day we will see Man of Steel 2 and they'll get their act together and give Henry Cavill the chance to make a truly fantastic Superman movie, because he's one of the best actors to ever play Superman and he deserves a lot more. Man of Steel received mixed reviews from critics, and on Rotten Tomatoes the film has an approval rating of 56%, with a consensus reading, Man of Steel's exhilarating action and spectacle can't fully overcome its detours into generic blockbuster territory. Richard Roper of the Chicago Sun-Times stated that Man of Steel covered no new ground with regard to Superman films, and stated, "We've plunged back into a mostly underwhelming situation with underdeveloped characters and supercharged fight scenes that drag on and offer nothing new in the way of special effects creativity." Ty Burr, the reviewer for the Boston Globe, stated, "What's missing from Man of Steel is a sense of lightness, of joy." A video game tie-in was released for Man of Steel, although it was simply a free PC game entitled Man of Steel Heroes Flight. It's a shame this game is so little known because, to be honest, this is probably the best Superman video game ever made. It's nowhere near as bad as Superman 64. Obviously, nothing can approach that shit. Not to say this is a great game, it has very jerky controls and the gameplay is pretty basic. However, it does stay true to the spirit of Man of Steel since Superman smashes through every fucking building he encounters. For a free game, however, it does have some awesome graphics and it can be fun as a time waster, although overall it's quite mediocre. As I said though, it's probably the best Superman game, but that's not saying a lot. However, it's worth a look if you're a fan. Although Man of Steel is a very flawed movie, I do think it gets a little bit too much hate. I don't think it's abysmal, which a lot of people do. I think it's quite good in some moments, but very flawed and far from a masterpiece. But the next film, however, I can fully understand why people hate. Yep, next time I am taking a look at Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Wish me luck. Thanks for watching everyone, I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and if you enjoyed this review, please subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next video.